Hello everyone, this is Dr. Farley, just giving you a quick video about the mechanics used in quotations in your paper. So again, just a lot of different rules here, so hopefully this will be a helpful point of reference for you as you're working on your papers. Alright, let's go ahead and begin. The most common way, of course, before just a quick attribution for your paper is using a comma. So as you'll see in this example, as Farley stated, you'll have a comma there, and then you will have your quote afterwards. If you have a complete thought and complete sentence before your quote, instead, you are going to use a colon. So in this example, Kuiper finds that a class is really engaged with the material after reading several articles. Then we have a colon, because that is a complete thought, and then the quote. Therefore, 57% more likely to respond after readings from page 27. So we have our author's name, Kuiper. We have our page number 27. We have this complete idea, so we're using a colon there. The other way to incorporate a quote into your sentence is if you're using a part of a sentence in your quote, you can just incorporate it straight into your own sentence. So in this example, ABC News reported in January of this year that, quote, "This is the worst winter in years in terms of temperatures and snowfall," unquote. And you'll see the author's name at the end there. So we have our source introduction here. You'll see that it goes straight from the word "that" in the sentence in the paper straight into the quoted material. No punctuation there, no capital letter, and it just fits in perfectly. If the punctuation occurs inside the quote, then you keep it inside the quote. If not, then you have to put it outside the quotation marks. So here, the quotation is actually a statement, but the sentence from the student's paper is a question. So the student is saying, should we believe Governor Pritzker when he stated, so they're asking a question there, "I think Illinois is in a great position to reform pensions." And so the statement is from Pritzker, that's the quote, but the question is the students, and so therefore the question mark is on the outside of those quotation marks. If you have quotation marks inside another set of quotation marks, you are to use single quotation marks here. So you'll see this can happen in a couple of different ways. One is you're using some sort of title of something. In this case, it's a song. So you'll see the quote here. When Ain't No Sunshine was released, Bill Withers had one of his biggest hits. Since Ain't No Sunshine is the name of a song, you'll see single quotations there for it. You'll see the double quotations from the article itself. This could also happen if you have a piece from the author's quote and also a quote that author had. So that's example 2. Here's the quote from this author, Johnson here. "There are several cases when film stars reject the script, as Brad Pitt did for World War Z," and now we're quoting Brad Pitt here. "I didn't feel the balance of characters was right, and I didn't want to go ahead without changes." You'll see the end of the single quote for this Brad Pitt quote, the end of the double quote for the original quote from Johnson, and then a period at the end. Articles and other things that are sort of portions of a larger whole are in quotation marks. Books, shows, things that are whole entities in and of themselves are in italics. So for instance, an article like this first example, fearing the same comic book movies and the reinvention of cinema, is a piece of, say, a magazine or a newspaper. And so if that's, say, it's from the New York Times would be in italics because it's the name of the publication itself. This is just a piece of that publication. Likewise, Harry Potter, since it's the name of a book and also a movie, that is in italics. Breaking Bad is the name of a TV show, so that's in italics. The name of the individual episodes of Breaking Bad would be in quotations. So you'd have an episode title in quotations, but the name of the show as a whole in italics. If you are using a quote that is longer than 4 lines of text, then you are going to indent it. When you indent it, you are going to have a colon at the end of your statement here, even if you have a short attribution here. So as Smith stated, colon. Then you have your long quote here about, this is about long-serving women politicians. And so that is entirely indented. You'll notice one of the main mistakes students make when indenting is that they also include quotation marks. So you should not be doing that because the indentation is already showing that it's a quotation. So it's a redundancy to include both forms there. When you're finished, if you're continuing in your paragraph, you go right back to the left alignment here for your spacing. So you don't indent this unless you're intending to start a new paragraph. Just one note about these lengthy quotes. The quote there, which I didn't read, but it was just a list of examples. Oftentimes students include these long quotes and they don't need to. And there are some important things to consider when using long quotes. One is that frequent use of them will break up the flow of your argument, especially if you use them, like I said, frequently. And that is because, different writers have different styles, and so you're sort of constantly shifting styles of writing. You can be shifting in tone. It's kind of difficult to, distinguish all of the points that your sources are trying to make compared to the points that you're trying to make in your paper. And it really can have a impact on just the logical flow of your information. A number of large quotes also makes you overly reliant on those sources to make your points. In other words, you're not using those quotes to support points that you're making. Typically, when I see students use a lot of long quotes, what they're doing is sort of introducing a topic in their paragraph and then letting their sources make their points for them. And you definitely don't want to do that. I would say, very frequently as well, the longer quotes are containing information that just isn't necessary to make their point to support whatever they were saying before. The information might be sort of interesting on some level, but if it's not necessary, it's going to make it feel off topic. One of the things you can use is an ellipsis, and you can do that to remove non-essential information. And I really want to emphasize that. If you are changing the meaning of the quote by using the ellipsis, that is sort of manipulating that information in a bad faith. So you should not be doing that. Oftentimes, it's something that's in parentheses, something that's a positive, for instance. That's something that's kind of set apart by quotes that's adding information. It might be a relative clause, again, that's adding information that's not necessary for your quote. If you feel like it's something that's going to be distracting or something that you've already talked about, perhaps maybe you've just mentioned it in your paper a second ago, so you don't want to repeat it again, that's perfectly legitimate as well. So you'll see here in this example I have in the original passage, the Knesset is elected through a nationwide proportional representation system with a relatively low electoral threshold, currently 3.25% of the total vote for parties to win seats. You'll see here, this is from an article which begins with the words, "Why Israel's?" You'll see here this information that's in parentheses in the second example is taken out, and in its place you'll see the ellipses there. If you need to add information rather than take it out, you use brackets. And when you're using brackets, it can be helpful A lot of times maybe there's a pronoun or there's a term, or say there's an acronym in there, you can replace it with the full title instead. In the examples I have here, it is a pronoun. So from the original article, it says when she first made the film, there were very few women directors working for major studios. And since obviously that reference is in the original article, but might not be in your paper yet. If it isn't, then you can just simply add the name. So when Catherine Bigelow first made the film, there were very few women directors working for major studios. Just a few things to keep in mind as well. Make sure every quote you use is referenced on your works cited page. So if you're quoting an author named Johnson and I look through your works cited page and there's no Johnson there, that's obviously an issue. It's a surprisingly common one. The flip side of that is that you should make sure your works cited page does not contain any sources that aren't cited in your paper as well. So if I'm looking through your works cited page and I see Johnson is an author there, but I don't remember seeing a citation for that person in your paper, that's equally a problem. Remember, we are using a works cited page, and so you are only including works that you have cited in the paper. Finally, make sure that your works cited page is in alphabetical order according to the first word in the citation. 99% of the time, this is the author's last name or the first word of the article title. If the first word of the article title is a, an, or the, then you would use the next word for the alphabetization. I do hope this helps. I know there are a lot of rules in MLA, and it just takes a bit of getting used to. I think they're coming out with the next edition, edition 9, soon, maybe this summer. I can't remember. I do remember seeing that headline. So some of these things may change soon, but I will update this accordingly.